Malliotakis on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've had some off-the-record conversations with the good sponsor of this resolution, and I would have much rather appreciated, and I'll say as a daughter of a Cuban refugee, I feel necessary to speak at this time. I much rather would have appreciated a resolution calling for Cuba to improve the human rights of its people, or a resolution calling for freedom of speech without fear of being beat, jailed, or murdered. A resolution that allows, especially from this House, which is always advocating for fair pay and minimum wage increases, to advocating to get rid of the two-currency system in Cuba, where people are paid 250 pesos, which translates to $10 a month. I would also have appreciated a resolution that said that Cuba should end its I said the two-currency system, but that allows its people to come and go from its island freely as it's pleased. Any of those resolutions would have been acceptable to me. And I think that for the first time in 55 years, a U.S. president has decided that they don't have an interest in spreading freedom, liberty, and justice anymore throughout the Western Hemisphere. And I truly do believe that we should be making advances in conversations with Cuba, and that's fine, to try to improve the situation, hoping to lift embargo at some point. But this act, without including Congress, I think was certainly well beyond the scope of what he's allowed to do, first of all, and I think that what he did by not including Congress in the conversation was wrong. Cubans are not going to benefit from this policy. Cubans will not benefit because the regime takes all the money that is brought in through any type of business outside of the country. They will be taking large cuts in any imports that they receive, and the businesses here are going to be skeptical of trading with Cuba because they're going to be reluctant to send shipments without the assumption that they're going to be getting paid, which has happened in many other Yes.
Mr.
Please.
Rivera asks you to yield.
Yes, Mr. Rivera.
I'm curious if you're aware. I'm going to say this. I'm going to break the governor's heart. He's not the first one that will be going to Cuba. We have been doing business with Cuba in spite of a blockade. We do $2 billion or maybe more. And I have a pending resolution that if this governor wants to be successful, he will have to open up the shipping ports of New York. I don't want to talk about that. If you help me get that resolution out of Corporation Committee, we can have an extended back and forth conversation. I have a letter here that you're entitled to...
Mr. Rivera, you have to ask a question.
Oh, I did.
Will I help you?
Are you willing to go to Cuba with a delegation?
No, I will not go to Cuba with the delegation. However, what I will say, I did visit Cuba in 2009. I have family in Cuba, and I will say that it is a very sad situation there for the Cuban people. And our government should really be using this as an opportunity to try to ease some of the burdens that the Cuban people face. And so what I think is, as I said earlier, I would support a conversation. I would support discussing possibility of lifting the embargo, but we shouldn't be doing so without getting some commitments from this Castro regime that has broken up families, tortured people, and doesn't allow...
Do you believe that, whether I like it or not, whether you like it or not, that the governor is still going to Cuba and he will open up a relationship, he will help President Obama?
Well, I hope...
Do you believe that it should no longer be the shipping ports of Houston doing business with Cuba?
Ladies and gentlemen,
under President George Bush?
One question at a time.
Okay.
What I believe is, and what I hope, is that when the governor does go to Cuba, that he has indicated, this is not going to be a discussion of human rights, which is very unfortunate. And you, Mr. Rivera, as somebody who has been on this floor time and time again calling for minimum wage increases, calling for equal pay, for equal work, should be concerned that the average Cuban who's a lawyer by the way, educated, highest degree, only makes $10 a month. So what goods we shipping from New York to Cuba is the average Cuban going to be able to buy? They do not have disposable income. They do not have the ability to purchase anything. Therefore, that's why I believe this is all really just nonsense, and we should really be more focused on pushing the Cubans to get rid of their two-currency system, which has impeded its people to the point where I got to send aspirin to my family, shampoo, razor blades. They don't have access to any of that, okay? And it's not because of the embargo, because they deal with all other countries in the world. It is because they are stuck under a two-currency system.
Let me ask you another question.
Yes.
Do you think this body is aware, not me, I said to this body, if you block this resolution, no, if you let this resolution go out on the floor and be voted yes, I feel great. If you block this resolution, I would still feel great because I'll be known to be standing up for opening up relationship with people that are hungry to open up relationship.
If you want
and
to,
you created a war. I didn't.
Well, I'm not
Twitter
the
with
one
reporters in the city of New York.
I'm not the one who introduced
and
the
you're
resolution.
losing that
You
battle. What you're accomplishing
Mr.
is
Speaker?
that at the end of this road,
All right,
you will become.
Mr. Rivera. Mr. Rivera. Mr. Rivera, can we please maintain a little decorum here, please?
Well, I'm going to
All
conclude,
right.
actually. I'll conclude. I just
Would
wanna,
you
I just wanna
complete
add-
your statement?
Yes,
You
I
still
wanna
have time.
Complete my
And
statement. Thank you. I just want to say that I didn't start anything because it's not my resolution. Someone decided that this was a good idea to introduce a resolution, which is fine. We have every right to do so. But then for me to stand up and give my point of view and then be said that I'm starting a war, I mean, that's exactly the type of mentality that they have in Cuba, which is why people don't have any freedom of speech. They don't have any ability to leave or come and go as they please. They don't have any opportunity to make more than $10 a month there. And instead, I would appreciate next time, and I will co-sponsor with you gladly, if you can issue a resolution calling for some of these human rights to be lifted from that nation before we go forward to visit them or try to do any type of business with them. Thank you, Mr. Rivera. I'll be voting in the no, Mr. Speaker. I guess you assumed that already. Thank you.